Marvin Cyrus in the building.
What's going down? Que pasa? Ondale.
Got C Major on the ones and twos. Back there handling what needs to be handled.
These garlic plantains are really good.
Yeah, definitely. She got something that I wouldn't even dare to try.
She been eating those for like an hour now. Quiet over there. Ain't been saying nothing.
They're so good.
Just wait till she get on. Yeah, they so good.
So, again, just to reiterate from last week, we got a caller real quick. One second. You're live on Down for the Team Radios. Your host, Jonah Legacy.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Hey, brother, Dr. Umar Johnson in the building. Let me get those hand claps one time, Marvin.
Yes, sir. Dr. Umar.
Yes, sir. This is the Prince of Pan-Africanism, as seen on the Breakfast Club. You know what I'm saying? He is indeed a doctor of clinical psychology and a certified school psychologist.
Yes, sir.
If y'all don't know, now you know. He is live on Down for the Team Radio. How you doing, Mr. Umar?
All is well, my brother. All is well. Thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to coming back to Brooklyn. Want everybody to come on out.
Yes.
To the Philadelphia Church of Universal Brotherhood, 530 Eastern Parkway, Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Doors open up at 2, program 3 to 6. And we're going to show up and show out.
Yes.
Roger that. I'm definitely going to be there. Me and my wife are going to be there. I'm trying to get Marvin in there as well.
If I'm not working, I'm there, man. Trust me, I'm definitely there, bro.
For a while now. I remember last year when I first got hired, when I was working where I was working, I met Dr. Umar at the airport. You remember me posting up that picture?
Yeah, I remember.
I was in uniform that day. I don't know if you remember that, Dr. Umar. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
I think so.
You couldn't come from behind that barricade. You was too deep in there. So I had to take the picture
I think I remember that.
I had to take the picture from a distance. You know what I'm saying? So in the meantime, in between time, man, what was interesting about one of your interviews? It was on Prince. And I wanted to just grab that out, and bring that out, put that out there of your views on that situation.
I believe Prince was murdered. I'm almost certain of it. I've been studying music industry assassinations for artists for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And there's always a couple of factors that are similar with all the slain artists, whether it's Sam Cooke, Jimi Hendrix, Michael Jackson, Tupac. It's always the fact that they often die alone. Mm-hmm. They always, dying alone. That's another factor. There's always also an effort on their behalf to secure control of their music. Mm-hmm. Every last one of them wanted to control their own music. That is a commonality across music industry assassinations of famous black artists. Number two, they are often always not well protected by their inner circle. They're claiming that Prince did not have a will. There's no way in hell you're going to get me to believe that a billionaire doesn't have a will. That man had a will. Mm. What happened was they destroyed the will so they can get the family to do whatever it is they want them to do, which is basically sell all of Prince's past, present, and future material. That man had a will. And then they cremated the brother within 72 hours after the autopsy. Clearly a cover-up for a murder. Why would you cremate a man's body like that of his stature when he has the money to be buried? Mm-hmm. That doesn't make any sense. Prince went back to the table. Warner Brothers invited him back to the table 2 years ago. They offered him his masters. The reason they offered him his masters is because they knew that was the only thing they could offer him to make him come back to the table. But it was a Machiavellian strategy. Mm-hmm. Although they gave him his masters back, they also asked for permission to remaster the Purple Rain album in time for his 30th anniversary. So when Prince gave them that authorization, he basically let the cracker back in his life. And they had resolved at that point that they were never going to let him get away again. So when Prince started seeing some shady dealings, things he didn't like, he was going to separate from him again. And that's when they knew they had to kill him. They couldn't let him go this time because if they let him go again, he was certain not to come back to that table. And to be honest with you, I don't think the murder was so much about the old Prince material as it is about the unreleased Prince material. Rumor has it, and I don't even think it's rumor because I believe it's even coming from his estate, that Prince has enough unpublished material to release an album a year for the next 100 years.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
He does, actually. He does.
That's
Wow.
that's outstanding
I
right
know
there.
that.
Oh man, wow, I never knew
So
that.
you can imagine the type of money unreleased Prince albums is going to generate.
And they said that he had ownership of his own catalog. No.
Yes, Warner Brothers gave him ownership of the catalog back, but now that he's dead, I'm quite certain the family's going to sell it because, as we learned a few weeks ago, Michael Jackson's family sold to Sony Records his share of the Beatles catalog. Remember, that was the reason Michael was killed in the first place, because he refused to give Sony back the Beatles catalog. So they killed him, knowing that the family don't know what to do with it, and the family would be broke looking for money. So they sold back to Sony Records Michael's share of the Beatles catalog. I knew it. I said, watch they end up back with that catalog. That was the purpose of the murder.
And what do you think about the fact that Prince never had music on the internet, like YouTube?
He didn't want it.
Or
Well, that was him controlling his merchandise. That
Yeah.
was him, controlling the market. I thought that was very wise. You could only see his videos and get his information if you paid him directly.
Yeah, he didn't want
Prince was a very, very shrewd businessman, as was Michael Jackson. And the irony in both of those brothers' lives is the fact that although they were quite effeminate in their presentation, which I really didn't agree with or condone, they were very, very gangster when it came to their business. Michael Jackson was very gangster. Paul McCartney, a former Beatle, asked Michael Jackson not to bid on the Beatles catalog because he wanted to own his own music. And Michael Jackson basically told him, with all due respect, this is business and our friendship is personal. And Michael and Paul McCartney's friendship took a detour after Michael bought the Beatles catalog. So Michael was very shrewd. He understood white supremacy. Prince understood it too. I just think that towards the end of their life, they got kind of careless with their security. They got kind of careless with their inner circle, because I believe both of them was done in from inner circle. Ain't no way around it. Because when they said Prince died alone, I knew he was murdered.
Yeah,
Of course, Michael died allegedly while the doctor was in the hospital. In the bathroom. He came back and found Michael Jackson unresponsive. Same thing with Jimi Hendrix, unresponsive. Same thing with Whitney Houston, unresponsive.
Well, Jimi Hendrix actually died in the ambulance. He choked on his own vomit, and
say that again.
Jimi Hendrix died on his own vomit in the ambulance.
I'm gonna dispute that.
Okay, I understand. Okay, but about the catalog for Michael Jackson, what happened is when they were doing the record, I think it was Black and White or something like that, and Paul McCartney was actually broke. He didn't get any money until his wife died, who was a billionaire because she's an Eastman, Lyndon Eastman from Eastman and Kodak. And he didn't have the money, and he didn't think that Michael Jackson was smart enough to buy the Beatles because he told him about the catalog in that move when they were recording that song. And Michael Jackson went on and bought the catalog. It did screw the relationship up, but Michael also allowed him to come back when he got Eastman's money, except it was at the time he got divorced. And so he couldn't buy it again. But as Jimi Hendrix, believe me, I understand the estate of Jimi Hendrix. He died on his own vomit in the ambulance from taking a sleeping pill that his inner circle gave to him, and he, being American, took the whole thing. But you're right.
The white girl gave it to him, and the white girl was paid by his manager,
I know.
who was an undercover agent for British MI6. He
I agree.
died in that tub.
I agree.
Either way, whatever the situation is, they were murdered by the music industry to take back control of their music.
I agree with you, brother. I mean, I still, I'm coming to grips on Prince's death is kind of weird, because here's a guy who, fired guys for taking drugs.
Well, first of all, nobody rides a bike. No black person rides a bike in cold-ass Minnesota with the flu. So that didn't make any sense. And there's no way that a flu death in any way, shape, or form resembles a drug overdose or intoxication death. And then the cremation of the body made it perfect. that they were covering up a murder.
Yeah, and they try to pin all of these allegations on him, like, okay, he had HIV or he was sick, and I've been seeing all these in the tabloids, and I've been reading. I'm like, really, what are y'all doing? Trying to, confuse the masses, like they usually do.
They told us for years that Hendrix died poor.
Indeed, they told us for years that Jimi Hendrix died poor, and I know for probably did he die poor? What do you think?
Well, not when his daddy got the money. Hendrix's daddy got.
Well, many of the black
Hendrix's daddy got over $10 million and control of Electric Land because his sister runs the thing, and that's on 8th Street, right down here.
So basically, Dr. Umar, in regards to the music industry, period, because I dabble with the industry. You know what I'm saying? Me and my team DFTT. We're touching, we're knocking at the doors. You know what I'm saying? So what would your advice be, on how to go about treading in those waters?
Well, see, my perspective would be influenced by my political ideology, which is Pan-African nationalism, and that is control your product. See, every musician has to make a decision. Every musician, whether they're a rapper, R&B singer, jazz player, it doesn't matter. And that decision is this. Do you want to control your product, or do you want to become famous overnight? Because what happens is if you choose the fame and the exposure and the reach, because the music companies control the distribution, they make it easy for anyone in the world to purchase your product. But look at the cost you pay for that. Getting 50 cents off of $1, getting 5 points, 10 points, 20 points. That's not worth what they're doing for you. In the world we live in today, where you can sell your own music online, distribute your own music, it's just like an author. So I'm self-published. It would make no sense for me to go to a publishing company. I have many of them come to me wanting to make offers because of the popularity of my book, but I would rather, do the work myself. I would rather control my product. Now, yeah, they could probably move millions of units for me, but at what cost? Even though you're moving millions of units, I'm still only receiving what I received publishing the book on my own. So for me, I'm not thirsty for the exposure. I don't have a problem with the gradual increase of readers of my book. And I think with black artists, they have to stop being so thirsty for the international spotlight. It will come if you handle your own business correctly. I just don't think the price is worth what you're going to lose by trading in ownership for exposure. When hip-hop was still being sold out the backs of trunks, the brothers didn't make as much money, but they kept everything that they made. It reminds me of an interview I heard with Luke Skywalker one time on the radio where he talked about the reason they tried to destroy him and Two Live Crew had nothing to do with the sexual content in their music performances and videos. He said they destroyed him because he was independent. That's why they destroyed him. He said, I would not give them a cut of what I was doing, and that's why they came after us, not for pornography. And he basically talked about, selling your soul, not on the spiritual sense, but in the economic sense. And so for me, to the fullest extent you guys can, try to remain as independent as possible. And if you do have to sign a distribution deal, make sure there's clauses and controls in that allows you to separate, when you decide that it's time to move on. But the only problem with that is the music industry is so powerful. You take the example of Prince or Michael Jackson, trying to separate can be hazardous to your health if you're a very successful artist. I think that Prince death scared a lot of artists. I think it scared a lot of artists. I mean, people were pretty certain that Mike was murdered too, but with Prince, I think that it's even more glaringly clear that he was murdered. And so I think a lot of artists understand that once you get in, they're really not going to let you get out. You can get out legally, but again, the music industry is very, very powerful, and there's things that they can do to you to affect you. So you kind of want to stay independent, and just from a quality of music standpoint, I think black people got to take back their music anyway, because once the corporations get it, they start dictating your content. And I know several big names in the music industry, and they talk about this. The music industry trying to dictate the content and direction of your music, and a lot of them don't like that fact, but they're signed to them contracts. So ownership is the key. And see, what a lot of people don't understand is music is America's second largest export industry. It's the second largest export from this country. That means America makes more money off of black music than everything else except possibly automobiles. So you have to look at the political power that is inherent in that. In fact, if we could take back our music, if we could take back ownership of black music, black music alone would be able to finance independent infrastructure building in the black community. If we own black music, we could rehabilitate every black ghetto in America.
What about
just off of black music money?
What about Jay-Z and P. Diddy? You know, they are indeed were CEOs of their company. You know,
Right. Well, that's paper. I'm talking about power. There's paper, then there's power.
so you're talking about
there's paper, then there's power. So on
complete
paper,
ownership.
they own, and of course, Jay-Z owns a lot of his masters. That's the paper. But the power is, if even one of them tried to separate from that industry, we might not hear about them ever again.
No. That's reality.
Indeed.
Wow.
So my final question is.